Hey everyone, for our fraction of the day today, we are going to move on to mixed numbers. And so our mixed number for today is 1 1/5. I'm going to write that as 1 1/5. So O-N-E for my whole number and O-N-E-F-I-F-T-H for my fractional part. So a mixed number is simply a fraction with a whole number, all right? Now, in order to picture them, I need two shapes. So instead of using my whole circle as a shape, I drew two circles here. And you can see I filled in the entire first one because that's the 1. And then I divided my other one up into fifths by making kind of a star pattern. So I just did a little line here and then the 4 legs to make kind of a star pattern and filled in one of those because it's 1 whole and 1/5, 1 out of 5 of a second one. And so for my rectangle, did the same thing. I drew two little rectangles here. I'm shading in the entire first one, so this one is completely shaded in, and then just one of the sections of the second rectangle that I've divided. All right, so plotting on a number line is a little bit trickier than it was with our fractions, because for this mixed number we need to go from 0 to 1, but also then from 1 to 2. And so I started with 0 here, and I actually should have moved my 1 over a little further, but I didn't. So I put my 1 here and then my 2 here, and then I made 4 lines to divide this up into fifths as evenly as I could. And then I labeled this. This is 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and here's my 1, and we know that that's also equal to 5 out of 5. So now I've got 1 1/5, or I could write that as 6/5, 1 2/5, or 7/5, 1 3/5, or 8/5, 1 4/5, or 9/5, and then 1 5/5, or 2, or another way to write that would be 10/5. All right, so let's graph our 1 1/5. So 1 1/5 falls right here. It's the whole number 1 with a fifth more on its way to 2. Okay, so to write 3 equivalent fractions, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1 1/5 and I'm going to change that into an improper fraction. So changing from a mixed number to an improper fraction works like this. We're going to take the whole number and multiply it by the denominator. So we're going to do 1 times 5. And then we're going to keep going around in this circle, but instead of multiplying times the numerator, we're going to add the numerator. So it's multiply times the denominator, add the numerator, and that will give you the new numerator. And as happens so often with fractions, we're going to keep the same denominator. So the denominator is not going to change. That denominator is going to stay at 5. But to get our new numerator, we're going to take 1 times 5, which is 5, and then add 1. So 5 plus 1 would be 6. So 1 1/5 is equal to 6/5. And we saw that up here, right, as we did our number line. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 6/5. 1 1/5 would be equal to 6/5. Okay? All right, so I'm going to use that 6/5 then to write 3 equivalent fractions. Okay, so my equivalent fractions, you can see I took my 6/5 and multiplied numerator and denominator by 2 to get 12/10. 12/10 is equal to 6/5. And then I took my 6/5 and multiplied by 3 top and bottom to get 18/15. So those two fractions are equivalent. And then 6/5, I chose 10. I multiplied top and bottom, numerator and denominator by 10 and got 60/50. All right, now how much more until the next whole number? So we're at 1 1/5 here. So it'll be 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5 until the next whole number. All right, so I wrote my 4/5 there. The next fraction that we're going to use to do the rest of our work here is 1/10. So we're going to compare 1 1/5 to 1/10. Well, this one should be pretty easy for us, right? If we have a whole number 1 over here and only a fraction over here, this definitely has to be larger. So 1 1/5 is bigger than 1/10. All right, for adding and subtracting then, we are going to need to get a common denominator. So I am going to take my fractions and just the fraction part and multiply it by the denominator of the other fraction. It should be a 5 here, not a 10. So I've taken my 1 1/10 and I'm just multiplying only the fraction part. So 1 times 10, and I got that 10 from over here, this other fraction is 10, and then 5 times 10 is 50. Now I'm taking this 5 and multiplying 1/10 top and bottom by the 5. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 10 times 5 is 50. I like to stack my numbers up when I'm doing addition. If I had a whole number, I would write it here, but I've got my fractions stacked one on top of another. So I've got 10 plus 5 is 15. And remember, we don't add the denominators, we just bring that down. So that's 50. And then 1 plus 0 here would be 1. Now, 15 and 5, both of those divide by 5, so we've got to do that. And so this would be 1 3/10. And 3 and 10 don't both divide by anything in common, so that is my final answer there. So again, with mixed numbers, I like to stack them when I'm doing my adding and subtracting. And so this is subtraction now. I took my bigger number, the mixed number, and I'm subtracting my fractional part. So 10 minus 5 is 5, and we don't add or subtract those denominators, and 1 minus 0 is 1. And then again, 5 and 50 can both be divided by 5, and so I need to do that simplifying. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 50 divided by 5 is 10, and of course that's in lowest terms. Now when we are multiplying and dividing mixed numbers, we want to use the improper fraction form of the mixed number. So this will be 6/5 times 1/10. And we know that with multiplying, that's just real easy. We just multiply straight across. 6 times 1 is 6. 5 times 10 is 50. Both of those can divide by 2. They're both even numbers, so we're going to do that division. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 50 divided by 2 is 25, and so that will be 3/25. All right, now we're going to do our keep, change, flip for division. So we've got 6/5 divided by 1/10. We're going to keep this number the same, 6/5. We're going to change this operation to multiply, and we're going to flip this 1/10 to 10 over 1. And then we're going to go ahead and do our multiplication. So 6 times 10 is 60, and 5 times 1 is 5. Now 60 over 5 is an improper fraction, so we're going to see how many times 5 can go into 60. Well, we might need to do just a little division problem over here, or if you know your division facts well, you'll know that 5 actually goes into 60 12 times. And so this would be just the whole number 12 would be our answer. All right, guys, that's fraction of the day today with the mixed number 1 1/5.